What's happening, everybody? Welcome to Indie Comics Review. This is the show where every week I review 3 indie comic books. If that's the kind of content you find interesting, be sure to hit the like button and the subscribe button. And if you'd like to support the channel, there's a link below to my Alternative City shop where I sell t-shirts, pins, magnets, all kinds of other cool stuff that I make, including comic books. Let's get started right away with the first book, which is True Cult. And it is written by Scott Bryan Wilson and drawn by Liana Kangas. And it is on the IDW Comics label. Marty Tarantella has been flipping burgers for 15 years. He has no kids, no hobbies, no love interests, and essentially no life. But what he does have is a plan to change everything. Years of watching the daily rhythms of the neighborhood stores have given Marty the idea for a perfect heist. But when he accidentally steals a supernatural weapon from a cult full of violent lunatics, the resulting satanic panic will be way above his minimum wage pay grade. Nothing can compare you for the coming of True Cult, a deliciously horrifying and hilarious new series from Scott Bryan Wilson, Batman, Gotham Knights, Pennyworth, and Liana Kangas. Star Wars Adventures, She Said Destroy. Man, am I glad I picked this book up. There's a lot that I can relate to, and I bet there's a lot that a lot of people can relate to in this book. This guy, this kid, his name is Marty Tarantella. He sometimes goes by Tarantula because I guess some people just naturally just mispronounce his name into that. So he just kind of leaned into the whole mispronunciation thing and calls himself Tarantula. And it's kind of an inside joke with his co-workers. Oh man, anyone who's worked retail can understand what's going on. I guess you might not be able to justify, because you really can't justify the means that he takes to make his dream happen. But if you've ever worked retail, you understand the hell that this guy is going through on a daily basis. Now, Marty's been a retail employee at Burger Lord for 15 years, which is just cruel and unusual punishment. So the story begins as Marty is planning this heist. He's reached his wit's end with this dead-end job that he just wandered into one day, trying to on a whim, I guess, because he needed extra cash or whatever. And next thing you know, it's 15 years later, and he really hasn't moved up that much. I mean, you make the big move from like fry cook up to the grill, and I think maybe he's now maybe the equivalent of like what they call crew chief or whatever, because the managers at this level are really just barely above the pay grade of the common employee, and they like to keep it that way. We're not going too deep into the structure of fast food business model and all that, but only like the general managers who travel around, they make a little bit more money. But the people who are quote unquote managers, they're just pretty much there to lock the place up and open up in the morning. They don't have much power at all. They get way too much responsibility and not nearly enough money. So Marty has finally got to that level where he's, I guess, entrusted with being a manager of sorts. And much like his co-worker Bernice, who is also a manager, they go through this whole life of just dealing with this retail hell on a daily basis. So Marty, on his lunch break, on his 30-minute lunch break, which, oh my God, I can totally relate to. You're supposed to get everything done. You're supposed to eat and go find food and then come back in 30 minutes every day, and that's just not enough time. But anyway, I digress. On his 30-minute lunch break, Mario decides to rob a whole bunch of stores in the mall area. And he's got it down to the timing that was perfect. He even had enough time to just maybe grab something to eat on the way back in from his robbery spree. And the responses that he gets from the people that he's robbing is pretty hilarious too. This book is so well written. You can tell that Scott Bryan Wilson has either done his research or he has actually worked retail or both. So it's such a well written book, and once he finishes his spree, he punches back in like nothing has happened. He's kind of he's acting real nervous around Bernice, who's right really the brains of the whole store. You can tell that even though she's been stuck there for as long as he's been stuck there, she's helping run this place. But sometimes you just get stuck in jobs, and life happens, and you can't get out of it, and it's just this thing. People always say, "Why don't you just get another job?" Well, it's hard to justify. But what happens to Brian? But what happens to Marty after that is he meets this girl who is applying for a job. So they had a no call, no show that same day. So they need someone else to work the cash register. And this girl comes in to apply for a job, and she wants to work there for some reason. And she kind of reminds Marty of himself many years ago, like this hardcore fan of Burger Lord and the idea of working for Burger Lord, which is kind of weird because it's almost like Stockholm syndrome. You're trapped in this thing, and you think it's good, but it's not really, because that's all you know. But there's something weird about this girl here, and we'll find out upcoming in other issues, I'm sure, and also what it was exactly that got stolen from or by Marty in his crime spree, and it's going to come back to bite him in the ass. I think most people will find something amusing about this story, and I think a lot of people will be able to identify with, at least to some degree, with the character of Marty. In my opinion, I think that I know in some countries, like Israel, for instance, there is a mandatory time required in the armed forces, in the army. I personally think in this country, everyone should have mandatory time as either a wait person or a wait staff, or in the retail industry, just to teach you some sort of humility and some sort of empathy for people who do these jobs, because I think as we found out in the pandemic, these are actually frontline workers. They don't get nearly enough money, and they get no credit for going to work and feeding a great number of Americans who rely on them every day. But man, this book hits it out of the park. I'll be absolutely, if you haven't guessed, I'll be picking up subsequent issues of True Cult. The next book is Hard Eyes #1. It is written by Dennis Hopeless and illustrated by Victor Ibanez, and it is on the Vault Comics label. Sanity-eating monsters ended humanity. The unlucky few who survived now hide in the cracks of a broken world. And yet somehow, beneath the graveyard that used to be San Antonio, Rico met Lupe, the girl of his dreams. But how did she get there? And why is she smiling? No one survives out in the street. No one smiles where the monsters lurk. The cover of this book, I think one reviewer says that it reminds you of some sort of a fantastic fever dream, and that's a pretty accurate description. This story it's weird, and it begins with this destruction of mankind by these monsters who just suddenly come out of the ground and just start devouring people. Everyone goes underground. It looks like it happens pretty quickly, so not a lot is explained. We learn as we go along. We find Lupe just wandering the streets, like no big deal, like it's another weekday. And all of a sudden, Lupe is snatched from the streets by this kid, Rico. Now, Rico, he lives underground in this bunker with his family, with his sister. I believe it's his uncle or his father, some other male figure. And there's no one there of his age, least of all a pretty girl like Lupe. So Rico is just like smitten, to say the least, and not really paying attention to what Lupe could be, because apparently these monsters can sometimes inhabit people, and I just kind of like possess them. And Lupe is always happy all the time, and she doesn't seem to be fazed by the fact that the world has gone to shit, and she's just walking around like everything is fine. So once Rico snatches her and quote unquote saves her, the sister, Rico's sister, is suspicious, and rightfully so, because she's not blinded by teenage lust, and the father is just kind of sympathetic because he recognizes what it used to be like when he was 17 too. So he kind of sympathizes with Rico, but things happen, and it's just weird that Lupe is kind of in the middle of those things when they happen, and we're not quite sure what Lupe's role is with this whole disaster and everything else. The artwork in this book is beautiful. Victor Ibanez does a fantastic job illustrating this, and even the writing is good. I don't know, it's not a lot is explained, but it's good enough to where you want to finish, or at least see more of the story and see how things turn out. The mystery of Lupe must be solved, and I'm here for it. So yeah, Hard Eyes #1. I give it a passing grade, and I will stick around and see what happens in the future. The next book is 20th Century Men, and it's written by Dennis Camp and art by S. Morian, and it's on the Image Comics label. At the end of the 20th century, superheroes, geniuses, madmen, and activists rushed toward World War III. A Soviet iron hero, a superpowered American president, an insane cyborg soldier, an Afghan woman hell-bent on building a better life for her people. These strange yet familiar beings collide in a story that mixes history, politics, and comic book mythology into something totally new. Welcome to 20th Century Men, where the edges of our reality and fiction touch, overlap, and then explode. And 20th Century Men is really hard to describe. It's hard to put into any kind of a category, but it looks fantastic. The art by S. Morian is just very detailed, and also it's just so complex. The story itself, and this book is 40 pages long, and it's only $3.99. A lot of books that many, that kind of a page count is going to be probably at least $5, maybe $6. So you really get a lot for your money. And unlike some books that sometimes, I know I hate really wordy books, even though this was like super wordy, but I'd never noticed it. I just thought like, wow, this is going on for a while, but I don't want it to end. And this was really well written to the point that it's not at all boring. It's so, there's so much being like mixed in with history, with fantasy. It goes from one year to another. It goes from one country to another. It focuses on these different characters. One of my favorite ones is the Soviet iron hero, which is kind of like he's almost kind of like the Iron Giant, or I mean an early Iron Man, the Mach 1 armor. Oh, no, not the Mach 1, but his original armor. And this guy is it's one of the more interesting characters. And also there's a superhero president who's just like a very despicable person, but he's got superhero powers and he's president. So that's just I talk about absolute power. So there's a lot going on with the first issue of 20th Century Man, and a lot to absorb. It looks like it's going to be a compelling story going forward. It looks like there's a lot more to be revealed, and man, I'm really here for the revelations that are to come for this story. I don't know if every issue is going to be as big as this one. Maybe now that they've explained and introduced a lot of the main characters, it'll be normal sized books going forward. But man, it's good on them for like not charging more for that first issue to get people to at least try the book. Because some folks I know, sometimes you just don't want to spend that extra $1 or $2 for an issue #1 for an unproven book. So to get it's pretty smart to get that issue #1 underpriced and get people hooked on the story, which it definitely worked with me. So 20th Century Man is something I'll be checking out going forward. This week's Artist Alley book is called Gatorman Kills. and it's written by, actually the story is by Scott Beecher and Nick Edwards. It's written by Nick Edwards, and art is by Scott Beecher, and it is on their Unearthly Comics label. Gatorman Kills. It reads like one of those good Saturday afternoon sci-fi or monster movies that we've all watched from time to time. The premise is it happens in Florida, of course, gators and all that, and just weirdness in general. And there's this airplane full of kind of like Con Air, full of prisoners being flown to another correctional facility. And there's this hurricane going on at the same time, as there always seems to be down there. And the hurricane somehow it affects the plane. The plane goes down in the hurricane, and the plane lands in a swamp. Some prisoners survive, and the ones that do survive take the surviving the surviving correctional officers as hostages, and they begin their journey out of the swamp, just heading in God knows what direction, because they have no compasses, they have nothing other than just the few weapons that they were able to just wrest from these the officers who were killed. So as they head out in the swamp, some of the prisoners start to get picked off by different things like gators and stuff like that, and then they happen up on this house. This old rickety mansion, almost like a kind of a mansion like a house, but it's just completely run down. And they get to this house, and they think that, okay, we'll be able to hold up here until the hurricane passes. But this is where the shit really starts to get weird, because this is where they run into the Gator Man. And the Gator Man is this you don't know if he's like some kind of supernatural creature, because he has like a kind of unearthly strength, and he carries his harpoon with him, which has got some really amazing cutting abilities. He's able to sever like two arms off of a person with this harpoon. So he's got some really super strength, or he's got some kind of a natural magic abilities in this harpoon. And the action is very much like a horror movie. So I can tell that these guys are fans of horror movies, and they that shows in the way that they present this story. And I really love Scott Beecher's art too. The way he does the Gator Man. He looks. I mean, it's you don't know if he's got his head inside of a gator costume. Is he part gator, part man? Is he just some psychopath wearing a gator suit? You can't really tell. But I love it, and it's well written as well. I mean, this is a very well written, well drawn book. It's 1995. I'll leave a link down below if there's some way to pick this book up. So man, this is Gatorman Kills. Got the movie poster cover, as a lot of people are doing now. I love those movie poster covers. This is a very well done book. I thank you guys for sending me this copy. If you have a Saturday afternoon where you just want to kick it and enjoy some good old horror, there's some folks that watch the show that definitely would enjoy this book, I think. Gatorman Kills. Wow, it's on Unearthly Comics. Check this book out if you like good old-fashioned horror movies. So man, that's going to be it for this Indie Comics review. I'm thinking, much as I hate to do it, I think from now on, this book was sent to me through the mail. I may have to just do only mail submissions, because I'm not 100% sure if maybe someone's file may have been corrupted, and it may have affected my email virus that I got. So just to play it safe going forward, I guess I'm only going to be able to do submissions through the mail. I'll leave my address as always down below if you want to send a book to be reviewed. So yeah, that's it. And thanks so much for those people who nominated me for the comic book awards, up against a lot of stiff competition in that category. I appreciate being nominated, and thanks to all you folks who helped me get nominated. Man, and it's all gravy from here. Just being nominated is enough for me. But if you want to vote for me going forward, I'd appreciate that too. But anyway, next week I'll be doing more reviews from of indie comics. So be sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and turn notifications on if you want to know what I'm making that next video. So until next time, see you guys in the funny papers. Hey, don't forget to subscribe and leave a thumbs up.